I'm not matching profiles, I'm matching people.
How far are you willing to go to become you? I'm asked that same question every morning. The connection has been lost to each other and to ourselves. Toxicity continues to rise while self-worth continues to fall. This was created out of sheer necessity, the desire to create change and curve the culture back to connection. My journey has rerouted my idea of who I'm becoming. Connection begins within, continues outward. Love you, then love me, in that order. If I'm about to get uncomfortable, then so are you. I'm learning who I am. Now I want to get to know you. Connection over convenience.
I think we're good. Lina, how are you?
Good, how are you?
How you been?
Really, really well. How have you been?
I'm excellent. Excellent. Welcome to the United States.
Yes, thank you so much.
Coming down from Australia.
Yes. I love the United States.
You've been here before?
Yes. Yeah. Vegas.
Okay. That's definitely here. What was that like?
I was there for an art project. I was one of 58 artists to draw one of the 58 victims that passed away in the Las Vegas massacre. And, it was really touching to be part of that and to be part of this family's life that were affected by such a tragedy, and to really pay it forward, because from that day forward, I really had it in me as that part of my life's purpose is to pay it forward and to do good things and to, really make a difference in other people's lives. And it's when those moments come that you realize that you're here to serve.
Was that part of the SWAN program?
No, that was actually inspired by that, though.
Okay, so anybody who's listening right now, the way that Lina and I met was actually, Lina is an artist, an amazing artist, and I follow Wim Hof, and I saw a picture of Wim Hof, and then I started reading it, and I started actually looking closer at the picture, and I realized it wasn't a picture of him; it was a drawing of him. It was from Lina, and it was amazing. I couldn't tell the difference between an actual photo and the drawing. And that's how we met. I think I reached out and started following you, and we started talking and got to know you. So it was an amazing place. But part of it was I learned about SWAN, which is Syndrome Without a Name.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and that's a program that you started?
Yes. Well, SWAN itself isn't. I started the SWAN portrait. And what swans are is they're these children, and they've got diseases and conditions so rare that they're quite new to science. And some of these diseases are so rare that some of these kids are the only people in the world with their condition. For example, the little boy that I have drawn, Noah, he has mitochondrial disease. Now, his version of mitochondrial disease is so rare that he's the only person in the world with his version of mitochondrial disease. Now, if you don't know what that is, mitochondrial is the powerhouse of the cell. So it means that his cells run out of energy really, really quickly, and it sort of affects his life on many, many levels. And the way that I got to do that was, we all have periods in our life, and everything is subject to change when we're sometimes we're in an amazing space, but this particular time I was not in a very, very good space. And I met his mother in the bathroom, actually, because I was just sort of, I was grieving over some losses. And she was so incredibly kind to me, she didn't know me from a bar of soap, and she was so incredibly kind to me. And I felt that, I felt that on a really, really deep level, because she had the choice just to walk away. And then a few months later, I learned about her child. And I learned about the struggles and everything that she had been through. And I thought, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity for me not to just, give back to this woman that gave me so much, but for me to pay it forward to, a lot of children that are going through this. So the aim was to choose 50 artists to draw or paint or depict 50 children that are struggling with these diseases. And some of these children are in palliative care, others have already passed away, so some of them are actually SWAN angels. And so far we've reached our halfway point. We've got 25 artists that are doing 25 children, and we're having our first exhibit on the 8th, which is fantastic. and then that will continue from there.
Oh, it's an amazing cause.
Thank you.
Yeah. You live a fascinating life, and I mean, I know I'm seeing you have bats living next to you on your couch and in your house, and snakes, snaking around, and koala bear. I mean, it just goes on and on with the exotic animals that you have living right with you.
I've never been one to desire a cookie cutter lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm probably a little bit more abstracted than well, I don't know how other people think, but from what I can see, what I desire is something a little bit more abstract and something a little bit more outside the box. And I feel that I really love animals, because animals are always going to be themselves. You cannot tell a snake not to be a snake. You cannot tell a monkey not to be a monkey. They're always going to be what they are. So, and they need our help. Like, I see ourselves as we're human. And we have this incredible cognitive ability. And if we can be here and we can set our purpose to help those that need our help and to just do and give, then that's amazing. Like, animals come to me that need help all the time. And I just open my house to them because that's what they need. And what I give to them is far less than what they give to me. And I just feel that it's our role as human beings to give care to others.
Growing up, is this who you were years ago, or is this a massive transition coming into who you are today?
This is a lot of who I was. I feel that as I've gotten older, I've come more into my own. And I feel that the difference now between the difference to me as a child or even 18 months ago is that my inner thoughts are more outer thoughts. The Japanese have a saying that, we show one face to the world and then we show another face to our closest friends. And our truest face is who we are on the inside and the thoughts and everything that we have. And as I'm getting older, the thoughts that I have on the inside are more external thoughts. They're more things that I'm expressing. It's more of I'm becoming on the outside who I am on the inside.
Which is interesting, because a lot of people, they don't have the connection on the inside, so they try to go with what they want to show on the outside, but they lack the inside, the real connection. You have the reverse, where I believe that you have that deep connection with yourself, and you're kind of just getting to the point now where you're feeling comfortable letting it out.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've learned in life is that we all of us, not just me, not just you, all of us, we learn as children how to put masks on, and how to show up at different places and different events and, how we're meant to behave here and there. And one of the things that I've learned is that it's very exhausting wearing a mask. It's very exhausting pretending to be somebody that you're not. I grew up in kind of a different setting to a lot of people, where I had a mother who was a very well-known clairvoyant when I was younger. And it was something that I was very embarrassed about. I had a lot of stories in my head about it. I tried to really hide that. I tried to hide my own gifts. And it was not something that I shared, even with my closest friends. But what it taught me was that there is value in being unique. Your intuition is your superpower, and your uniqueness is what makes you beautiful. So share that.
Individuality. Do you feel, or did you feel misunderstood throughout the years?
Oh, very much so. Very, very, very much so. It's probably the story of my life. An interesting scenario. And, it's funny because, my mindset has changed so much within the last 18 months. And it needed to, because 18 months ago was actually, when I was going through a lot of stuff. And sometimes when we're going through hard stuff, we feel like everything is ending. But sometimes things come to an end because we need to be reborn, in a sense.
Yeah. And
when I was going through a lot of stuff, I actually was in a social setting. And one of the stories that I always told myself, and I had it ever since I was a child, was that I didn't fit in. And, because as a child, I really had this unique upbringing, and in a lot of ways I didn't fit in. But the thing was, I carried that into adulthood. Now I was in this social setting, and I was really, really nervous. I actually had this coach at the time. I actually believe that throughout everyone's life, most people will need a coach or something, or someone to help them get through some experiences that they're having. And I said to her, I want to go to this event because I feel that, if I'm around people more often and I'm around large social settings, then I can throw myself into the very thing that I've been most afraid of. Anyway, so I went to this event, and the feedback that I got was not overly positive. It was, oh, she's very nervous. It was, it was a lot of all this stuff. And I thought, you know what? It really, at the end of the day, never matters what people think of you, because everybody is going to have a story in their own head based on their own filters. Now, if, I was to bring a snake into that room and there were people saying, oh, I don't want to go near you because I'm afraid of snakes, most people's response will be, oh, give her compassion. She's really afraid of snakes. Now, in that situation, I wasn't wearing a sign on me saying, I'm really nervous in large social settings. Please be compassionate. And that's the thing. You've got to understand that not everybody knows what's happening on the inside. So everyone is going to have their own story, their own filters of what's happening. And when you hear that feedback, rather than being angry or being disgruntled, have compassion and say, you know what? That was co-created. I was behaving in a certain way that was co-created, and you did not know what was going on inside of me. And at that moment, I did not know what was going inside of you. So what I'm going to do is just show you compassion, love, and kindness.
That's extremely emotionally mature.
Thank you.
Yeah. To have that perspective, that's amazing.
Thank you. It's funny because as a young child, I always got along best with my mother's friends, and I never really hung out with the children that were my age. Even when I remember being 7 years old, I didn't want to go and play with the other children. I wanted to sit up with the adults and chat with the adults. And I'm still like that now. Like my favourite people actually, oddly enough, tend to be older women. Women that are in their 50s and 60s. It's just the women that I'm drawn to and that I want to be around most of the time. And I feel it's just part of who I've always been, and I'm really happy. I really love who I am today. So I'm really happy that I've had the experiences in life that I've needed to have had, because they were perfect for where I was at the time, and I love who I am today.
The relationships that you have today, do you struggle with meeting somebody at your level?
I never really think of it like that. I've never really thought, I'm going to meet somebody, are they going to be at my level? Most of the time when I meet somebody, I'm wondering what it is that I can learn from them, because everyone has something to teach us. Everyone you meet.
I guess when I say level, I don't mean, what I mean is by your vulnerability, by that level of you're so open and so deep. That's what I mean by that, as opposed to a very surface-like conversation. I don't think you would do too well in that kind of, go out of your mind.
It's funny because that's actually a lot of why I have struggled most of my life in really large social settings, because, I believe that when we have small talk in a room, it diminishes emotional intelligence. Mm. We're not really getting to know somebody where, I would go into a room and I would, there'd be a bunch of people and I'd be like, well, how do I do this small talk thing? And what do I say? And what do I do? And so I would go and talk to a group of people and I go, well, I don't really know what to do with this small group of people, and I don't really know what to talk about because no one's talking about anything so deep. So I'll just move on to the next bunch of people and I'll just talk to them as well, and then I go to them and I'm like, well, I'm not really comfortable with talking about small talk here either. I want to talk about something real, about something that matters, and that actually just, if anything, it sort of made my awkwardness worse, because it was like, I'm standing there trying to read everyone and going, well, in my head, I'm like, what's really happening inside of you? We can't be talking about the weather or, your body language has changed. So I'm just going to look at you for a few minutes and try and figure out why your energy has changed here. And it was just the sort of thing that, would go through my head. And it's sort of these days now I'm a little bit more relaxed. And I just go, you know what, whatever they want to talk about, I'll just talk about it, because that's just, I'm here having this experience for a reason.
That's exhausting, though. Going through what you just described, like it would be exhausting on like mentally, physically. It's just what an exhausting place to be when you just can't have that real connection, real conversation.
Yeah, it was very exhausting, and it's a big part of the reason why I couldn't handle social situations. And it's sort of like, you know what? I just have this belief now that it really doesn't matter what anyone thinks of me. It really doesn't matter what you talk about. What matters is, if you connect with somebody on a deeper level, great. If you don't connect with them on a deeper level, it's fine. It's not meant to be. But there is an experience to be shared in that moment, and there is something to chat about. And if it's on a shallow surface-based level, well, that's also great, because what you've learned how to relax.
Sure. How did you get here? How did you get here?
To that place?
To this place.
You know what? I got to say, it was actually in that moment where I learned that people were going to have their thoughts and feelings about you regardless. And, it actually caused a lot of anxiety for me at the time, because I was thinking, oh my God, how can somebody think like that about me? And, the end of the result was I know myself better than anybody else knows me. And it does not matter what somebody else thinks of me. In fact, it's not even any of my business. It's none of my business. What matters is how I feel about me and the person who I am. And it sort of instilled a sense of self-confidence in me that it was sort of like, you know what? If it's not going to affect me, it's just noise. And at the end of the day, what I really need to be doing is getting on with what I feel my life purpose is. That is to serve and help others. Yeah. Everything else is relevant.
Yeah, it is noise. And you get to crank yours way the fuck up and turn their volume down,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Just block it right out.
It's all learning. We're all here to learn. And, one of the things that I really love in life is being a mother, because my child has taught me so much. And one of the things that he's taught me is he's taught me how to start life as a beginner. Every time we go into a new situation, or we meet somebody else, meet somebody new, or something happens, look at it as you were a beginner in life, because we're all beginners regardless of what we do, because there's always something to learn. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you stop learning and you stop growing. And I never see my child as being a good child or a bad child. He's just a child. He's just this spiritual being that's come down to earth, and he's chosen this human existence, and he's here to learn and grow just like the rest of us. And my job as a parent and as an adult and a caregiver and a guardian in his life is to teach him to the best of my ability.
That's really healthy. It's a
Thank you.
Really healthy attitude, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How old is he?
He's 3.5.
Wow. Okay.
And you know what? I'm honestly raising a bundle of love, and to me, that's important.
Yeah, it's like being born into the day. You get to live life again through his eyes as well. That's an interesting place to be. Seeing everything from his eyes.
Exactly. Yeah. I watched him the other day. He was in the bathroom, and he noticed the foot pedal on the bin, and it was so simple. And he looks at this pedal and goes like, "Wow, that's so cool." And I had to have a little chuckle to myself, because I'm like, at 3.5, he's discovering that he can use his foot to open the bin. And that's just amazing to him. Now, if you walked around life and everything was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I mean, even the experiences that are deemed bad, and if you were to look at them and go, wow, that's amazing, look at how much I've learned from that, how fast would you grow and how quickly?
It just shows how as we get older, we take things for granted. From his eyes, everything is so new and exciting, and just grateful and gratitude with everything. And years later, you know, we look at something, we just take it for granted.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Did I?
Yeah. It cut out for half a second.
Okay.
So yeah, that's just part of why I love being a mother. It's funny because before I entered this phase in my life where I was really just accepting of all that is and all that I'm experiencing in my life, you know, I was in this space where I was really wanting to learn more. I was really confused about life and I was really wanting to grow. And I remember watching a podcast, and in this podcast, the man said, you know, I can't remember who it was that was being interviewed. It was a while ago. And he said, the road to enlightenment is acknowledging is that there's light and dark within all of us. And I looked at my life and I looked at, you know, everything that had happened. I thought, you know what, that's very, very true. You know, I've been so at a very, very early age. And I've also been very, very, very blessed to have had some people in my life that weren't so wonderful, that were toxic in a sense. And I was so blessed because it taught me so much. And I didn't see it that way at the time. But I remember I had a big lesson in that. And it was almost like a spiritual lesson in a physical form. And I remember I was moving out of one house and I was trying to move into another house. And I was looking for a place to live. And there was a place, I really wanted to live in a place called Spencer. And I was driving through, because I found this house that I really loved, but it didn't quite have, even though I loved the house, I felt that the energy there was a little bit more stagnant, that there was just not something that was quite right about it. And then there was another place called Gunderman, and the two places were right next to each other. And I remember I'd actually said to my child's father at the time, you know, I said, I don't know why, but I have a feeling that there was a sex cult here. And he said, why would you say that? I said, I don't know. He said, that's an odd thing to say. Anyway, so I brushed it off.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I was driving through these places and I'm thinking, you know what, I feel really good in a place called Gunderman. I feel really good. I feel like I want to meditate here. And then I drive through Spencer and be like, you know what, this place doesn't feel quite as good. You know, I'm feeling something different here and I'm not too sure about what it is that I'm feeling. And this was a big lesson in, you know, trusting my intuition as well. Anyway, and I remember ringing my mother because we were coming up to New Year's Eve, and I said, you know what, I want to sit in this place. It was right outside this national park in Gunderman. And I said to her, you know what, I want to spend New Year's Eve meditating. And I want to spend the New Year coming into this New Year just meditating and just being still. Anyway, and as I was looking for this place, you know, I'd got news that I couldn't get that other place, which I so wanted. And, you know, it was a blessing in disguise. And I went to another place to look for a rental, and I really didn't like that place either. But the real estate agent said to me, you know, there's another place you can rent. It's in the old ashram. She said, I can't tell you where it is, but I'll show you tomorrow. Anyway, so me being me and me being very, very curious and sticking my nose in, you know, just wherever because I'm just, you know, curiosity kills the cat, I've gone looking for this place. Now, what I found was the land that used to be owned by this place. Now, I didn't know that, but I was driving through this land. I'm getting like this really eerie feeling, like I was just not comfortable with what I was feeling there. And I just knew something wasn't right. You know, anyway, so I drove out of this place, and, you know, there's several thoughts and feelings that I had about this place, but it was just not a good feeling. And I drove out of that place, and I thought, something, you know, I felt something. Anyway, that afternoon, I was actually with my mother and I said, you know what, I really want to go and find this place. So we stopped at this little place to eat on the way. And as I was walking in, there was a girl there. She was going, oh, I'm looking for the Buddhist monastery. And here I am thinking that the two places were the same place. Mm. Now, the first time I was looking, I was in Spencer. Now, I end up following her out to this place. We end up in Gunderman. Right where I wanted to meditate, there was a locked gate that I went through and ended up finding a Buddhist monastery right in that bush. The following day, I ended up at the ashram, and what I found out about the ashram is that it used to be, in the 80s, a child sex cult.
No kidding.
Now, the funny thing is, it was the same national park. The same national park, about 45 minutes away from each other, driving. The same national park, one which had a lot of light, and the other that had harboured a lot of darkness. Now, it was the same place, both. One was light and one was dark. And that was really a metaphor for me about what lies within each of us. You know, and when you can acknowledge that there is both good and bad in all of it, and it is which part you focus on that becomes you, that is when you can really, truly master who you are.
Sure. That's amazing. It's amazing that you can feel the energy.
You know, I sort of believe, well, actually, not sort of, I absolutely believe that we are all energy. You know, our body is a certain size, but our energy is big. You know, it really depends on, you know, where we're feeling. You know, if we're in a dark place, our aura will be smaller, you know, and that'll shrink. You know, if we're in a place of, you know, abundance, happiness, and, you know, all wonderful feelings that make us feel good, then our auras will expand. When we meet people who are of a similar frequency to us, we naturally gravitate to them, you know. And sometimes these could be people that we have repelled in other situations because our energy hasn't been to that place, you know, when we've needed to grow to a certain extent. You know, so as we grow as people, as we understand that we really are creating our world that we live in, people will be gravitated to us that suit our frequency. You know, I think it was Eckhart Tolle that said, you know, the way we, when we see the way we see the world will change based on, I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically he was saying, you know, if we believe that we live in a hostile universe, we will receive hostility. If we believe that we live in a loving universe, we will receive loving energy from the people that we're around. You know, so the way that I took that was, you know, if I want love in life, I'm to give more love. If I want more abundance, I'm to feel abundant. You know, if I want kindness, be kind. You know, and it's not just being kind to others and being loving to others, it's being kind and loving to ourselves. Because if we're just being kind to others because, you know, we feel, you know, that's what we want, and then it's just because we're needing to be kind back, that's not what we're going to receive. We need to really love ourselves.
It's selfish. Being kind to others just because you're looking for it for yourself is actually pretty selfish.
Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying it's pretty selfish when you're trying to be kind to others just because you need that feeling for yourself. It's almost trying to fill a void. It actually comes from a very selfish place as opposed to the other side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, when we love ourselves first and our cup is full, we have more to give. You know, so it's about giving. You cannot give from an empty cup.
No.
And it's selfish not to care for yourself. If that doesn't make sense to you.
Absolutely. Yes. I've never heard it put that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when you think about it, if I didn't have a full cup, I wouldn't be able to give to my son. You know, and I think that we're all here because we all see the world slightly differently. We all see it through a slightly different lens.
Would you say that comes from strong boundaries, though? Being able to have the boundaries to block out any negativity and also to block out, you know, anything that's going to drain your own energy?
Yes, definitely. You know, when someone comes at you with any negativity, know that they're not coming from a place that they're happy within themselves. Okay?
Yeah.
So you don't need to be negative in return. You don't need to be angry in return. All you need to do is wish them healing. You know, you can always walk away. You always have the choice to walk away. You know, and that is about having strong boundaries, and it's something, you know, that is it's taken me a long time to learn, you know, that I'm valuable, you know, that I'm worthy, and if somebody's going to come and project their negativity onto me, I don't need that. It is simple. I will just walk away.
Did you always have such strong boundaries?
No, absolutely not.
So how,
Absolutely.
I mean, what was your journey? What did it look like that you went from there to here?
You know, I had someone in my life do a very, very destructive thing. And it took me a long time to forgive, a long, long time to forgive. But I'm so grateful for them doing the wrong thing, because it taught me so, so much. You know, and it really taught me about forgiveness, because when you hold on to resentment, when you hold on to anger, when you seek revenge, when you're holding that and you're carrying that inside your body. You know, when you learn to forgive, it doesn't mean that you condone what they've. By having my boundaries broken over and over and over again, it taught me to have boundaries. You know, and it's something that I'm still learning about, you know, because it has been a life lesson, in the sense that, you know, these boundaries were broken so many times. And there's been times where unknowingly I've broken other people's boundaries as well, and it's never come from a place of malice. You know, it's come from a place of not understanding what their boundaries were. And, you know, and knowing that I wouldn't want someone to hold resentment toward me. Well, you know, whether they do or not, you know, it's their business. But by me holding resentment toward another human being, I'm carrying that inside myself. You know, so my boundary literally is, if you are going to be negative, if the relationship is going to be destructive, if I'm not going to be able to tolerate it, I will not come back at you with negativity. I will not come back at you with anger. I will simply walk away.
Cheers to that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're taking a snapshot of today and a snapshot of, you know, a couple of years ago, it's got to look completely different in your life, I'm guessing, right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, completely different. I went through a stage, and it was after my son was born, because we had a horrendous birth. I almost lost him at birth, and I didn't do so well either, you know. And I went through, after I'd given birth to him. Now, basically, what happened was I was overdosed on drugs, and you know, when you're overdosed on drugs during birth, the fetus receives all those drugs. Now, I had way over what I was supposed to. I mean, I'm a small frame, and you know, I have 2 glasses of wine. I'm very, very drunk after 2 glasses of wine, let alone being overdosed on drugs. And, you know, I have very few memories about my child's birth, but one of the memories was they put him on top of me. And I was barely awake at the time. They had given me so many drugs that they had to wake me up to push. And all I remember them saying is, "We've got to get this baby out now." They were screaming it. And they put him on top of me, and then they start yelling, "We've got a floppy baby, we've got a floppy baby." And they're called Code Blue. Now, when I opened my eyes, I was surrounded by doctors, and they've rushed my child away. Now, I was hardly conscious. And I vaguely remember. Now, at the time, I didn't remember them putting a sheet over my head. I just didn't know why. All I could see was some bright light coming through, some filtered light. That was all I could see in my mind, was filtered light. Now, looking back, and as memories have come back to me, I remember saying that it was bright, and so they put the sheet over my head saying, "Mate, you can out." And in this bright light, all I could think of was, am I dead? Have I died? Where am I? What's happened to my child? Is my child dead, or is he alive? And for a long time, that really had an impact on my well-being and, you know, my headspace, because it caused me to have dreams for God, almost 2 years. The first 6 months were really, really bad, but it was dreams about my child dying and the worst of the worst happening to him. And, I got to a point probably 18 months ago where the pain of staying the same was greater than the pain of moving forward. So it was almost like I'd remained stuck since my child's birth, of being in this horrendous pain of not wanting to be in a place that I was in my life, having awful nightmares almost nightly for years. I think it was a little bit of PTSD. And, and also having a few other things happen in my life. And the pain of just being there and being stuck was so great that I had no choice but to propel myself forward. They have the bricks, feathers, and the feathers, bricks. I don't even know what the saying is. But that is literally what happened. It was like being hit with Mac 1 Mac truck after the next Mac truck. And that happened for 2 years straight until I finally said, you know what? I think I get the message. I think it's time to move forward, and that was how I got to where I was today. I had literally had to allow myself to rebirth and create who I wanted to be.
You had the choice. I mean, you said you had no choice. You had the choice, and as painful as that was, you made, a choice. A lot of people would choose to do nothing, which is also a choice. And they would live in that same zone, living that same day for the rest of their lives. I mean, if you think about where it could have gone at that point, you could have stayed in that zone, or you chose to do the very hard work to escape that and to live your life, as opposed to, it's almost like you're trapped. If you live how you're living, was almost, you were trapped in your head. You're trapped in like a nightmare in a way, or it's a nightmare.
I was trapped in a cycle.
Yeah.
It's like I'd been to a seminar and something was said on stage, and I wish I remembered what it was that was said, but I just for the life of me can't remember. But what it resonated and left an imprint in me so much that I realized that I had a choice to stay stuck or move forward. And for me, even though there was a choice, there was only one option, because I certainly wasn't going to be staying where I was. The pain of staying stuck is greater than the pain of moving forward. And in some cases, that's what some people need, and that in that case, that is what I needed. I needed to grow through so much so I could propel myself in moving forward.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me to see how many people are actually stuck in life. They're stuck in a moment, but that one moment becomes the rest of their life, because they're like literally locked in that moment, and so that is like becomes, they make that as their personality, and they're unwilling to escape that personality that they created, and so they live day in and day out as that person.
And I guess I was really, really, really blessed and really lucky in that moment to be given an education.
Yeah.
I really was, and the education was that it's really up to me. I'm going to create what I want. It's funny because my whole life, my mother has loved Louise. She's always spoken to me about affirmations, and I always palmed it off, because I guess sometimes what we do is, as children of parents, we sort of brush off what our parents tell us. But coming from another person, and it was the same information, meant more. And I was like, oh, hold on a second, I really am here to create what it is that I want. I don't have to live in default. I don't have to live in my old program. I just have to update my software. It's very, very simple. I update the software in my computer, don't I? Why can't I update the software in my brain? Simple. Done.
So true.
And I think that I'm so immensely grateful for that education at that time, because it was exactly what I needed at that point. And I guess one of the things that I've realized is that there is always the perfect moment in life. Even when the moment doesn't seem perfect, it's perfect. Not that I believe in perfection, but it's perfect because it's exactly where you need to be at that point to learn what you need to learn to grow into the person that you're going to grow into, be who you're going to be. And who you are today is who you grew into from yesterday. So you are perfectly here in this moment right now because it is the experience that you are having.
Yeah, I have right as I'm looking to the side, but below as I come down my stairs, it says, "Be happy for this moment. This moment is your life." And it has a big, like an hourglass, but it's so true. And I have that at the bottom of my stairs. The reason being is because I see it every morning as I come downstairs. It's this big picture. Be happy for this moment. This moment is your life.
Exactly. This all we ever have is the present.
Yes.
If I'm so concerned about what's going to happen tomorrow, then I'm not living in the present. It doesn't mean that you don't plan for tomorrow, but you have to live in the now.
That's right.
Like I was saying, hold on, I just have to fix the moment that you are having in your life is the most important moment because it is the only moment you will ever have. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. It's what I find really fascinating about what you do is you don't match people based on a profile. You meet the people and then you match them. And I think that is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think that relationships in life can teach us so much because one relationship, most people go into a relationship and they think that this relationship is the be all and end all and it's going to be forever. Sometimes it will and sometimes it won't. Either way, you are blessed regardless because if it lasts forever, wonderful, you've found your forever person. If it doesn't, wonderful, because you've found somebody who is going to teach you what you need to learn in order for you to grow and to become who you need to be. And then you may end up meeting the forever person. If you don't, that's great too, because you're going to learn regardless. And one of the things that I really value is learning.
I appreciate that. We're in a very interesting time where, people are they're matching profiles. They're literally matching by just a swipe. That's how they're getting to know each other. And like, that's the depth of the relationship. That's pretty much it.
So I'm just moving so I've got more reception.
That's okay. Yeah, it's very interesting though how where relationships are today or aren't.
Well, I think that it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's funny because we swipe and we make assumptions by people based on what they look like, and you cannot feel chemistry via a photo. You have to actually be with someone to feel that chemistry. It's very, very rare, I've found in this lifetime. Attraction is common. It's very common to be attracted to someone, but to really find somebody who sparks your soul, who speaks to you in your own language, that is rare.
Yeah.
That is really, really rare, and we're living in such a throwaway society where, all of a sudden our feelings become status updates. We avoid confrontation by arguing through texts. We don't really speak about our feelings and the experience that we're having. That's why some relationships aren't working, because we have not, not everyone has got to a point where they're conscious of the way that they're feeling and the stories that they're telling themselves and how they share that with other people. And I remember listening to, I think it was Tony Robbins, and he said, you are where you are in your life based on how you communicate. That is wherever you go in your life. So if you're not communicating with somebody with how you're feeling and where you're at, that leaves it open for another person to go, okay, well, you know what, this is the stories that I have in my head, and this is the filter that I'm seeing everything through. So this is how I'm going to interpret this. And then misalignments happen. We start, arguing because we see the world differently. Whereas if we could just communicate and just say, look, this is how I'm seeing the world. This is how I'm viewing you. Is it true? If it's true, can you help me explain why? Or am I hallucinating? If if I'm hallucinating, what I think is going on, perhaps you can help me by explaining to me where you're at.
Yeah. Relationships right now are built on convenience as opposed to built on connection. You can't have a relationship built on convenience.
No, I absolutely agree. Most relationships that come into our lives that mean something aren't built on convenience. In fact, they're very inconvenient. But connection is what's going to be important. It's going to be the glue to hold you together. If you don't have a connection, and it's just like, okay, well, I should be in a relationship with this person because, they live next door to me, they're easy to access, or it's something that is very, very, very common, and we see it all the time. Oh, we need to have this relationship because we have a child together, or, and this ticks that box, or we need to keep this relationship because we need to keep up appearances. Ultimately, that relationship is going to be destined to fail because the connection's not there. And if it doesn't fail on the outside, it's not going to work on the inside. And you're not only holding yourself back from meeting somebody who you truly have a connection with, but you're also holding them back from meeting somebody that they have a connection with.
You nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Have you ever tried online dating?
Yes,
Yeah,
I have. I have. It doesn't do anything for me. I stopped doing online dating. I actually came to this space, and it's where I'm at now, is that I just want to date myself for a while.
I love that.
I love my own company. It's sort of, unless you love yourself, you don't have the love to give others.
Did you see you see the shirt that I wore today? I wore it for you. See that? Can you?
The hearts.
They're
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, it's just, I would rather create the life that I want to create and do that independently than seek out a relationship, out of convenience. Someone who really, really, really sparks my soul in that sense. If it's meant to be, it will just happen. I don't have to go out seeking anything, and I don't have to need anything.
Yeah, you're in such a healthy place today, and I love it. You're a beautiful human. Like you really have a solid, strong, deep connection with yourself.
Thank you. It's taken a long time to get that way. It's actually taken 33 years to get that way. That's how old I am.
A lot of people, they're 63 years and they don't get to this place. So you consider, you got here early in life. That's early in life to get here. You could say 33 years, but it's very early in life to get to this place.
I've lived a life. I've lived a very, very full life for a 33-year-old. I've had a lot of experiences. Some at the time, and I really believe they weren't good experiences, but they were all great experiences because I had so much to learn from them. So that's what made them all great. My earpiece is falling out. There we go. And it's through experience that we grow. And I had to get to the point where I realized that I was simply here to grow, that I really started growing. And if you look at each experience and you go, well, I'm a victim of circumstance and this happened and that happened, that's actually once upon a time where I was at, where I really believe, because this happened and that happened, that's who I am. No, hold on a second. Those experiences happened because they had a purpose. They were there to teach me something. And so if everyone just looked at every experience as being fantastic and great, even if it felt terrible at the time, and just taught us that it was there to teach us something, and then they would start learning and growing.
I have great news for you, is you have another 2+ lifetimes ahead of you. Think about that. Just think about that. You have 2 more lifetimes ahead.
So I have another 2+ lifetimes ahead of me. What do you mean by that?
I mean, you're only 33 years old. Think about that. So you have another 33 years and then another 33 years. So everything you've lived, you have another like 2 of those ahead of you, which is amazing. And you're at this place now. Like life it didn't even start yet.
You know, I remember being 24.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I actually remember having this thought. And I thought to myself, my life isn't going to last very long. Like, it's going to end one day. You know, like, I'm only on the planet for a short time. You know, when I say a short time, 90 years is a short time when you think about it. And I thought, and I literally had this thought, I was like, oh my God, I have to go and live. I have to go and do something now before my life ends. So I went and traveled the world. And it was amazing. I loved it, you know, because I honestly believe that it was like, well, I have the choice now to live my life the way I lived it. Now, when I travelled, I saw things, you know, like I saw a lot of animal cruelty in India, and there were things that, you know, at the time I didn't like about it. But I can truly, really appreciate that now. And I feel that because I've always had this sense that I wasn't going to be here for long, I've always pursued the things that I want to do. You know, like I wanted to work with animals, so I went and worked with animals. I wanted to be an artist, so I learned to draw. You know, it's my relationship with my mortality that has, you know, meant to me, that has pushed me to be where I am right now. And I suppose, you know, I think that I felt that at a very young age. You know, I felt it when I was 24, but I remember feeling it earlier when I was 11, and I was, you know, in the backyard, and I was playing cards. I think we were playing the game Bullshit or something. I can't remember what it was. I'm pretty sure that was the game. And I was sitting with my back to a tree. My friend Grace was sitting to my right. Our friend Emma was sitting opposite us, and my sister was sitting. My friend Grace was sitting to the left. My sister was sitting to the right, and Emma was sitting opposite us. And a metre behind me, there was a tree, and the tree got struck by lightning. Anyway, so no, I didn't get hit by lightning, but the tree behind me, like literally like within meters from me, the tree got struck by lightning. Now, the force of that lightning pulled me off my chair. And I remember at that moment, the world was still. You know, because all I could see was this blue light, white light. Like literally that was imprinted in my mind, this light. And I was sitting, and I had gone from sitting on a chair to my butt planted on the floor. And it was still. The world was completely still. And I think that was probably one of the first times in my life that the world was still, like silence. There was no chatter in my mind. It was, I can't describe, it was complete nothingness. And because literally that's all I could see was just this blue white light. And after that, I felt really lucky, because what are the odds of not being struck by lightning, but almost being struck by lightning, but to have that complete stillness, like where there's literally, I'll admit it, I'm not really one to meditate a lot, but I've never reached that point of meditation. But I imagine it's what they talk about when they talk about that complete stillness in meditation. And I think from then on, it was sort of like, you know what? You don't know if you're going to get struck by lightning tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to get hit by a car. You don't, you know, live today. You know, if you want to do something with your life, you do it today. You want to do an act of kindness where you go and help, you know, a bunch of children that are sick because you want to pay it forward, do it.
That lightning struck, it ignited you. Like it literally ignited the fire inside you.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah. You know, it was, I will never forget that moment. It was incredibly surreal, and I'm so blessed that I've had the experiences that I've had in my life, because I wouldn't be who I am today without those experiences.
I so appreciate you tonight sharing you and your experiences with me, and telling me all about your life and how you got here tonight. I'm superly just grateful that you had the time to spend with me tonight.
Thank you so much. Look, I am so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have a chat with you in this setting. I learn a lot from, the advice and the wisdom that you put up. And I think that, you're a truly beautiful human being, and beautiful human beings see beautiful human beings, and what you see is beautiful human beings.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you at 34 and 35 and seeing, what you do with your life and watching the SWAN and everything else. Just you ignite. You are now the lightning that just keeps striking. I can't wait to see it. Every time it's going to strike again, what's going to be.
Oh, thank you. That's so beautiful.
Well, it was great seeing you tonight.
You too, likewise.
And I will be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your night.
You too.
Your day. Excuse me, your day.
My day.
Your day.